Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parishrakacharya Ashtottharshata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaichanaran Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navdeep Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Ganga Devi Ki Jai Yuvanamayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Rani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samsthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Go Premanande. All glories to the Simul devotees. All glories to the Simul devotees. All glories to the Simul devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Praishwa Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Swadhamo Bhagate Dhanamajnanadibhisaha Kalau Nashta Drishamesha Puranarko Dhunoditaha. This is Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, entitled Vidura's Talks with Maitreya. Today we are on text number 7. Kindly repeat. Kridana Vidhatte Dvijagosuranam Kshemaya Karnamani Avatara Bhedehi Manaham Na Tripyati Api Shrindvatam Naha Shushloka Maulehi Charitamratani Kridan Vidhatte Dvijagosuranam Kshemaya Karnamani Avatara Bhedehi Mano na tripyatyapi shrindvatam naha Sushloka maulesh charitamratani Kridan vidhatte dvijagosuranam Kshemaya karnamani avatara bhedehi Mano na tripyatyapi shrindvatam naha Sushloka maulesh charitamratani Kridan vidhatte dvijagosuranam Kshemaya karnamani avatara bhedehi Mano na tripyatyapi shrindvatam naham Sushloka maulesh charitamratani Kridan vidhatte dvijago suranam. Kshemayat karmani avatara bhedaihi. Mano natripyatyapi shrinvatam naham. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Kridan vidhatte dvijago suranam. Kshemaya karmani avatara bhedaihi. Mano natripyatyapi shrinvatam naha. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Kshemaya karmani avatara bhedaihi. Shrinvatam naha. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Ladies. Vidatte vrijago suranam. Kshemaya karmani avatara bhedaihi. Mano natripyatyapi shrinvatam naha. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Kridan vidhatte dvijago suranam. Kshemaya karmani avatara bhedaihi. Mano natripyatyapi shrinvatam naha. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Kridan vidhatte Kshemaya karmani avatara bhedaihi. Mano natripyatyapi shrinvatam naha. Sushlokamaulesh-charitamritani. Kridan, manifesting pastimes. Vidhatte, he performs. Dvija, twice born. Go, cows. Suranam, of the demigods. Kshemaya, welfare. Karmani, transcendental activities. Avatara, incarnations. Bhedaihi, differently. Manaham, mind. Never. Tripyati, satisfies. Api, in spite of. Shrindvatam, continuously hearing. Naham, our. Sushloka, auspicious. Maulehe, of the Lord. Charita, characteristics. Amritani, undying. Translation: you may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows, and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. Please repeat. You may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows, and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord appears in this universe in different incarnations, like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and Nrsimha. And he manifests his different transcendental activities for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows, and the demigods. The Lord is directly concerned with the twice-born, or civilized men. A civilized man is one who has taken his birth twice. A living entity takes birth in this mundane world due to the union of male and female. A human being is born due to union of the father and mother, but a civilized human being has another birth by contact with a spiritual master who becomes the actual father. The father and mother of the material body are so only in one birth, and in the next birth the father and mother may be a different couple. But the bona fide spiritual master, as the representative of the Lord, is the eternal Father, because the spiritual master has the responsibility to lead the disciple to spiritual salvation, or the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, a civilized man must be twice born, otherwise he's no more than the lower animals. The cow is the most important animal for developing the human body to perfection. The body can be maintained by any kind of foodstuff, but cow's milk is particularly essential for developing the finer tissues of the human brain, so that one can understand the intricacies of transcendental knowledge. A civilized man is expected to live on foodstuffs comprising fruits, vegetables, grains, sugar, and milk. The bull helps in the agricultural process of producing grain, etc. And thus, in one sense, the bull is the father of humankind, whereas the cow is the mother, for she supplies milk to human society. A civilized man is therefore expected to give all protection to the bulls and cows. The demigods, or the living entities who live in the higher planets, are far superior to human beings. Since they have better arrangements for living conditions, they live far more luxuriously than human beings, yet they're all devotees of the Lord. The Lord incarnates in different forms, such as those of a fish, a tortoise, a hog, and a combined lion and man, just to give protection to civilized man, the cow, and the demigods, who are directly responsible for the regulative life of progressive self-realization. The whole system of material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. One who takes advantage of such an arrangement is called a demigod, or civilized man. The cow is meant to help maintain such a high standard of living. The Lord's pastimes for the protection of the twice-born civilized men, the cows and the demigods, are all transcendental. A human being is inclined to hear good narrations and stories, and therefore there are so many books, magazines, and newspapers on the market to satisfy the interests of the developed soul. But the pleasure in such literature, after it is read once, becomes stale, and people do not take any interest in reading such literature repeatedly. In fact, newspapers are read for less than an hour and then thrown in the dustbins as rubbish. The case is similar with all other mundane literatures. But the beauty of transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that they never become old. They have been read in the world by civilized man for the last 5,000 years, and they've never become old. They're ever fresh to the learned scholars and devotees. And even by daily repetition of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no satiation for devotees like Vidura. Vidura might have heard the pastimes of the Lord many, many times before he met Maitreya. But still, he wanted the same narrations to be repeated because he was never satiated by hearing them. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord's glorious pastimes. Oma jnana timarantasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utaparagammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadeva Sampaya Pitva Rishi Ustat Priyajanaha. Toward the end of the 10th canto, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur prays, "O my dear Lord Gopal, my words are like cows, and only if you accept them will they become relishable for the devotees to hear." So, in a similar way, I'm praying for all of your blessings that I can say something of worth about this wonderful verse. Although it's, in some sense, it's a transition, and in fact, it's repetitive as well. Back in text number 5, we heard him already ask that, "O great sage, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the independent, desireless Lord of the three worlds and the controller of all energies, accepts incarnations and creates the cosmic manifestation with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance." Here it's described, I think it's Sridhar Swami says, Punar Vishesham Prashtum Autsukyam Avishkaroti Manaha iti. By mentioning his mind, Vidura discloses that he is very eager to hear and to ask, therefore, again, about these avatars. It's that important. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments only that avatara bhedair matsya kurmadibhi. By avatara bheda, the word is used here, it's different avatars. He means Matsya avatar, and Srila Prabhupada expands that list in the beginning of his purport. Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha. They're not mentioning Krishna because, strictly speaking, Krishna is not an avatar. Although people think that Krishna is the 8th incarnation of Vishnu, actually he's not. He's avatari. That is settled already in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto. So he's very eager to hear even about these different kinds of avatars. So, Matsyavatara bhedaehi kridan yani yatha karmani vidhatte. In as many incarnations as the Lord appears and performs pastimes, so he performs correspondingly appropriate activities. It's the business of hogs, Srila Prabhupada said, to lift things out of filthy places. And so when the earth fell to the nether regions of the ocean, where all the muck is at the bottom of the sea, Varahadev came as a hog to do this. And similarly, in order to keep the benedictions of Hiranyakashipu intact, the Lord took a completely unique form, appropriate to the occasion, in order to fulfill his purpose. Not really his purpose. Whose purpose is it? That's stated here. Kshemaya. Dvijagosuranam Kshemaya. He's coming again and again only for the benefit, the ultimate welfare of three categories that are mentioned here. It's very clean purport. The first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada talks about the Brahmanas, Dvijas. Second paragraph, the cows. Third paragraph, the demigods. And then he sums up in 4 paragraphs. Srila Prabhupada very neatly explains all these things. So, that's the first point. He's coming for these 3 categories. We can get a sense of the importance of these 3 categories if we hear from the demigods themselves. When they were distressed by Hiranyakashipu, to take one example of a big demon. We have small demons now. Hiranyakashipu was such an aggressor that he was terrorizing the entire universe. Vladimir Putin is notorious nowadays. I don't think, at least in this country, nobody likes him. But what he's doing is nothing compared to what Hiranyakashipu was doing. He had ousted even the demigods. They try to do that. They're trying to tweak the magnetic poles for so many decades, but they can't get very far because they don't know what they're doing. Mokha sha mokha karmano mokha jnana vichetasaha rakshasim ityadi. The rakshasas are, whatever they try to do, it is all for naught. But in the 7th canto, chapter 3, text number 13, we're hearing this. Demigods are praying. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and the brahmanas. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. Srila Prabhupada has given us a very illuminating purport, as usual. He says in this verse, the words Dvijagavam Parameshtyam indicate the most exalted positions of the Brahmanas, Brahminical culture, and the cows. It's a slightly different list, if you haven't noticed. What's missing from this list in the 7th canto? Why is the demigods missing from that list? Because they're speaking. Because they're speaking. They're not going to put themselves into such prominence. These are the qualities that you develop when you become a demigod. All good qualities. Yasyasi bhaktir bhagavati akinchana. So humility is among them. All right, so Srila Prabhupada says, in Vedic culture, the welfare of cows and the welfare of brahmanas are essential. Without a proper arrangement for developing Brahminical culture and protecting cows, all the affairs of administration will go to hell. Being afraid that Hiranyakashipu would occupy the post of Brahma, all the demigods were extremely disturbed. Hiranyakashipu was a well-known demon, and the demigods knew that if demons and rakshasas were to occupy the supreme post, Brahminical culture and protection of cows would come to an end. And stated in the Bhagavad Gita 5:29, who knows? Yajñatapasam suradam sarvabhutanam ityadi. This is the formula that the cows, their animals in general, are automatically acting in accordance with their dharma. Only as human beings we have a choice whether to do it or not. But the demigods are also dharmic, and the dvijas, the twice-born, they're also dharmic. Cows are also dharmic. And therefore Krishna maintains them because that is his business. Okay, so the word is in spiritual advancement, Srila Prabhupada continues, one's material position improves at the same time that the path of liberation becomes clear, and one is freed from material bondage. Even for material opulence, one has to live a pious life. That's very important. And today, being Varutini Ekadashi, we can just mention someone who observes this Ekadashi very carefully, that person becomes pious in this life and opulent in this life, and after this life, the person gets liberation. If you scrupulously follow yathavidhi, according to the Shastric injunctions. So, these are the hallmarks of a truly human civilization, persons who are concerned first and foremost with dharma. Why is that? Srila Prabhupada has already mentioned in his purport here that he put it very nicely. The cows, demigods, and Brahmins are directly responsible for the regulative life of progressive self-realization. People don't even have a clue that this is what life is meant for. People assume wrongly that life is actually meant to enjoy. Everybody has their bucket list of what they want to do before they die, because the assumption is that we have to gratify our senses. But that's not actually the purpose of life. The real purpose of life is to become self-realized. Self-realization frees us from suffering. It frees us from the bondage of coming back and having to eat this misery again and again and again in each successive birth. So human life and a truly human civilization is actually aimed at this. And he continues here in today's purport, the whole system of material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. It's not that you have to privilege the opportunity for sense gratification. People are so crazed with this false conception of life, nate vidusarka gatim hi Vishnu, that they fight with one another when the sense gratification is threatened by one class or by another class or by one party or another party, as if that were the only thing to be gained in life. They don't have a clue that actually there's a much higher purpose than this, and that purpose can actually be realized. And so then how can they even imagine that there was, or in some form even continues, a civilization in which people take advantage of this understanding? They can't imagine. So this is why the Brahmins are important, Dvija. They are twice born. Just by initiation, one is twice born. By birth alone, one is a Shudra. Janmana jayate Shudra. What is that? Samskaratu bhale Dvija. By samskar, you become twice born. Initiation is one of the samskars. There are a dozen or so. Veda Parthat Bhaved Vipra. By reading Srila Prabhupada's books, then you become a learned scholar. Anyone, any fool can become a scholar if he reads every day. Brahmajanatiti Brahmana. And why is it all there? Why is it all important? You have to realize, Aham Brahmasmi. I'm not this material body, I'm a spiritual being. What is the nature of spirit? What is my identity as spirit? This is the goal of human life. So the Lord comes again and again and again in order to effect this and in order to make sure it actually happens practically. How does it, at ground level, how does it actually transpire? That is the importance of Brahminical culture and protecting of cows, and the demigods. Demigods, they generally don't fail in their duty. They're very stable and very sattvic and very responsible. Right? You can set your clock by the sun because he doesn't fail. When we become like that, then we become demigods. We've got some ways to go, most of us. But we can get there by serving cows. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Bhagavata, he says actually, the reason I took birth in a Brahmin family is because last time I was a Vaishya and I was very faithfully engaged in taking care of cows. Although it's transcendental Leela, he says like that. So, cows and also the Brahmins, to serve the Brahmins, to support the Brahmins, to facilitate the Brahmins. This is the purpose of a truly human civilization. These are the characteristics of a really human civilization. So Prabhupada discusses each of them in turn in this purport. And he emphasizes that just as the father produces the foodstuffs, so the bull is doing that. People think that their food is coming from sprouts. It's not coming from sprouts. It's coming from the earth. And how does it come out of the earth? By God's arrangement, not by ours. And the bull is very helpful, as we said, at ground level. The bull is doing all the work. And the cow is eating grass by some achintya shakti and turning it into milk. And here Prabhupada says, milk is important because you cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam unless you are drinking milk, my friends. All respect to the vegans and whatever your situation may be, but milk is very important. Godasa, they call it. Liquid religiosity, Srila Prabhupada also called it. Very, very powerful substance. And this cow is offering free out of love. She doesn't have to give milk, right? If you live with cows, you know these things. We don't live with cows. They probably don't, I don't think they even allow cows in West Los Angeles. But in India still, cows are a little bit appreciated, except for places like Noida, where the IT culture has been established. Or Bangalore, and similarly demoniac places. Bangalore, in case you haven't been there, there's a tavern every 20 feet, it seems. That's the culture that all the multinationals have brought in. So, but traditional Indians at least, they know that cow is very important. And in the morning, before you eat, you should feed a cow, because she's your mother. You eat before your mother eats? No. She's giving us so much. Not only milk, but all the things that come from milk. Too much milk. The cow cannot drink all the milk. It's meant for us. That is the plan that Prabhupada mentions here. What does he say again? Very nicely he put it. The whole system of material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. So the one who takes advantage of such an arrangement is called a demigod or a civilized man. Demigod or a Brahmin. And the cow is meant to maintain such a high standard of living. This is a high standard of living. Back to Varutini Ekadashi. There are different things you can give as charity on Ekadashi. These are the pious things that we do. Because even Krishna says twice in Bhagavad Gita, sacrifice, charity, austerity, these things should never ever be neglected. Twice he says it. So charity is particularly for the householders. And what kind of charity do we give? We give to a suitable recipient at a suitable time in a suitable place. Suitable time would be this Ekadashi. If you're giving a charity on this day, you are freed from sins, you'll be freed from diseases, you'll be happy, and your future is auspicious. So, to give land is not so easy thing. It's very expensive. But to give sesame seeds, believe it or not, is considered to be more valuable than giving land. And to give foodstuffs is more valuable than that. Giving gold, is more valuable than that. Giving a cow is more valuable than that also. But what is the most valuable thing? To give knowledge. To distribute Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, which Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here also in his purport. We'll get to that in a moment. So cows, and this is particularly the domain of the Brahmanas. Prabhupada actually intended for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to become a society chiefly of Brahmins, at least functioning as Brahmins. And the business of the Brahmins is to elevate the rest of the society. Who else is going to do it? Shudras? No. The persons who can think straight, persons who are cool-headed and not so feverish about pursuing sense gratification. These people can actually think of the welfare of others, as Prahlad Maharaj prayed. Manascha bhadrani. Do you know the verse? Manascha bhadram bhajatara dhokshije. How do they think? Thinking of each other's welfare. Swasti astu vishvasya. May the entire universe be auspicious. Khala prasidatam. May all these aggressive rascals be pacified somehow. What is it? Yeah, this is Bhajatara Dhokshija. By worshipping at Dhokshija, this is how the mind becomes also. Mitho, what is it? Swastyastu Vishwasya Khala Prasidadam. Jayantu Bhutani Shivam Mithodhiya. May everybody think of each other's welfare. How is that going to happen if you're a demon? It cannot happen. First of all, the mind has to be purified. Means the mind and heart are the same. Manascha bhadram. You have to have a purified heart. Then you can think of someone else's welfare. You can think of your own welfare even. And that only comes bhajatara dhokshije. So Prahlad prays, may we all enter more and more into this consciousness, deeper and deeper into this consciousness of divorce. Such an exalted prayer, such an exalted consciousness. Can we think of offering such a prayer as this? We're thinking, let my kid pass his exam, may my daughter be married, can I get a new car, may I not be so sick all the time. All the things that we're praying for are so temporal and ultimately insignificant. But Prahlad Maharaj, out of his exalted character, he's thinking of the welfare of the entire universe, not just human society even. Swasti astu vishvasya. So, again and again, Srila Prabhupada returns to Prahlad Maharaj's exalted prayers and his exalted consciousness. And so here it's described in the Canto 7, Chapter 3, Text 13, explains the significance of cows and Brahmins and implicitly Devas to some degree. Canto 7, Chapter 2, Text number 12, gives us the antithesis, because understanding the importance of cows and Brahmins and demigods in human society, those who are grihavratas, those who are dedicated demons, they know that these things pose a threat. Sometimes when we preach Krishna consciousness, we find that people are challenging. Not sometimes, a lot of the time. And in some places it's worse than it is here, although it's getting worse and worse every day, it seems, here in America also. But in some places they don't even allow you to chant Hare Krishna in public. You cannot even approach someone with a book about God in some countries, it's true. And they would like to import that worldwide. I mean to say export that standard worldwide, because that's their conviction. Their faith is that perverse. These are the demons. So therefore the first thing that the demons, who are so aggressive and as eager to establish godlessness as the devotees are to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, their faith is invested in the wrong place, in the wrong account. And so they have an equal amount of magnitude of determination and enthusiasm, but it's destructive, just like monkey. I was hearing Vaisheshika Prabhu, he was discussing these. In Vrindavan we have different animals. Everything is there in full technicolor, a full display. Cows are there, very sattvic, peaceful creatures. They never complain. I've been living in MVT where we have a cow for about, maybe 10 years almost. Never once have I heard this cow utter a word. Of course, cow words, not human words. She doesn't talk. They're just very peaceful all the time, no matter what. Monkeys, on the other hand, crows even, they're always complaining about something. They're always dissatisfied. They're always, why are you looking at me the wrong way? If you look at a monkey the wrong way, there's going to be a problem, for sure, because the minds are at a different consciousness, you see. So cows, what is it Prabhupada said? Cows are sattvic, lions are passionate, monkeys are tamasic. So human beings can be like that also, unfortunately. When we become like monkeys, dvipada pashu, two-legged animals, then it becomes a problem. And we feel threatened by cows. We feel threatened by Brahmins. We feel threatened by demigods and by Brahminical culture in general. Here it's stated, 7:12. O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakashipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. No, I'm reading the same thing, sorry. I have to go back to chapter 2, text 12. There they say, immediately go. This is the instructions that Hiranyakashipu has given to his peons. He's telling them, immediately go wherever there's good protection for the cows and brahmanas, and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashram principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots the trees there, which are the source of life. Talk about deforestation. Big topic nowadays, isn't it? So, Prabhupada says here, the picture of proper human civilization is indirectly described here. In a perfect human civilization, there must be a class of men fully trained as perfect brahmanas. Similarly, there must be kshatriyas to rule the country very nicely according to the injunctions of the shastras. And there must be vaishyas who can protect the cows. In India, due to want of real vaishyas, we have corrupt Hindus, so-called Hindus, pseudo-Hindus, who actually sell those cows. And who buys the cows? Persons who are going to slaughter those cows. And you no more even have to take them across the border anymore. You can do it right there in India. India is the #1 country for cow slaughter. And they're so greedy and lusty and demoniac that they don't even buy them sometimes. They steal them. It happened a few years ago. Krishna Balaram's Goshala, they pulled up with a truck, and in the back of the truck was a winch affixed, and they just lifted up one cow, moved him over, put him in the truck, and drove away. In India, believe it or not, for money. And India, I mean, you know, they will do anything for money. It's well known. I can say that because I live there. But anyway, so this is the idea Prabhupada is saying, that these are the acts of the demons. The word Gava indicates that cows should be given protection. Because the Vedic civilization is lost, cows are not protected, but instead indiscriminately killed in slaughterhouses. Therefore, this is a demoniac civilization. The Varnashram Dharma mentioned here is essential for human civilization. Unless there's a Brahmana to guide, a Kshatriya to rule perfectly, and a perfect Vaishya to produce food and protect the cows, how will people live peacefully? It is impossible. Okay, I don't want to go too far afield here. But the final point that is mentioned by the commentators here, very, very beautiful line, the final line of this verse, Sushloka Maulesh Charitamritani. Sushloka Mauli is a name for Lord Krishna, Vishnu. What does it mean? Sushloka, transcendental shlokas. Mauli is the crown. He wears these as his crown, as it were. Different commentators are saying different things here. Sridhar Swami says, Sushlokaha punya kirtayaha. His glories which make you pious, that is called sushloka. It's written down in shloka form, in other words. Tesham mauliriva adhikyenopari virajamanaha. Like a crown, his glories shine in abundant super excellence. And those glories take the form of shlokas. In other words, it's a fancy way of saying uttama shloka. Uttama shloka. And uttama shlokasya charitamritani, the immortal and nectarian activities of that Lord. This is what Vidura says, mano na tripyati api shrinvatam naha. Even though we're hearing these things all the time, our minds are never satisfied. We can't get enough. It's an amazing principle here. Prabhupada is talking about the distinction between transcendental literature and mundane literature. Mundane literature may have every charm and every novelty, but you can only read it so much. Even the best literature, Shakespeare and others, you eventually get, it's enough. And yet Srila Prabhupada's books, by comparison, they're full of repetition. There's absolutely nothing novel about them, in one sense. And yet the devotees are so eager, the pure devotees are eager to hear about these again and again. Prabhupada makes that distinction also clear in his purport when he says, books like Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., there's no satiation for devotees like Vidura. There's a question of caliber. And that's discussed in 10th Canto, Chapter 1, text number 4. Famous verse you all know. Kautama shloka gunanavadat vinapashukne pushugnad ityadi. All right, so we have to develop our caliber of appreciation and taste by embracing this process with full enthusiasm and determination. So, there are very powerful forces always in human society, the demons and the demigods. And the demons are always eager to erase God from public life, any manifestation, any reminder, they want to get rid of it, like Putana. And the devotees, on the other hand, are eager to utilize every opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness, and especially through distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, because what can we say? We have no potency, nor we have any realization, or even eloquence. But Srila Prabhupada has said everything perfectly. And so if we share, then somebody will get these books, and somebody will cultivate that taste and become so appreciative that he can say the same thing, as Vidura is saying here. Our minds are never satisfied, sushloka maulesh charitamritani, by the nectarian activities of sushloka maudi, uttama shloka. I have to stop here because it's late. We've already gone over time, but thank you all very much for listening very patiently. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.